Welcome to the Mind Your Own Business podcast and show. I am your host, Elizabeth Upton, and as a former executive, I have seen it all. Our conversations are aimed at inspiring new ways that you can redesign your business and your life so that you can create more time, freedom, and power than you ever thought possible. If you are a highly driven business professional, ranging from I have an idea to an emerging entrepreneur, to a CEO who's ready to expand your team, or even if you are an employee who works for one, this show is definitely for you. Join us as we discuss strategies and tips and hacks that will help you to mind your own business, all while not taking ourselves too seriously. There's a little bit of all things business in here, designed to simplify and set your life up for success, from operations, marketing, sales, finance, and mindset to self-care. All of my guests have made an impact in my life, and hopefully they'll do the same for you. If you love to learn and are ready to level up, you're in the right place. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the Mind Your Own Business podcast. I am so honored and excited to be interviewing this guest today. She is not only an author, a speaker, a resilience expert, but she is an incredible human. She is someone that I look up to. She is someone that inspires me. She's someone that I call a coach. And for her to be here with us today is so amazing. She has been on so many shows. And the fact that she's here with us today is just blowing my mind. She is the great Cheryl Hunter. Cheryl, welcome to the show.
Elizabeth, it is such a delight to be with you. Thank you.
It's amazing to have you.
How are we going to get through this without just laughing and giggling and smiling the whole time? It's such a treat.
I learned from working with you in particular, the importance of mindset, and you created a distinction for me that I hadn't thought about in the way of, oh, it's mindset. I never thought of it that way. And, there is a transformation in being aware of the mindset, of being aware of the voice in your head, and then what you do with it. And it creates, I've experienced what I've committed to by getting outside of myself. You know, how people say, I had to get out of my own way. It's
Right.
it's like that. It's like I got out of my own way, because if we let that voice in our head dictate what we decide to do, we probably would never do anything. And being able to say, got it, moving on, and having the team that is there to support you and to say, you know what, that's not true. That's not true. Let me actually show you what's true. This is what's going on. This is what you're up to. This is what you're creating. And knowing that that mindset and that voice in your head is something that will either stop you or propel you into action that will make an impact in the world. And having that consistently be the case, that is what you have given me the gift of. And I'd love for our listeners to hear your thoughts on, mindset or the voice in your head, or anything that they can do to really get that it's not just this general thing or this self-help book. It's actually your life that is at stake, and the life of others that you're going to help, support, influence, teach, educate, fill in the blank.
Well, absolutely. My pleasure. As I had gone, in the work that I did, helping people overcome trauma, and that work that I did, like I'd said, with the Holocaust survivors, war vets, 9/11 first responders, et cetera, that I did in codifying what had worked and not worked for them. And then in my applying that to my own journey and what worked and didn't work there, was some of the stuff that I found that was the most debilitating. I went back to when they were coming up with this whole notion of the internal dialogue in Gestalt therapy in the 1930s, but about what is that, I started studying brain science, and where does that come from? What is the impact on our lives? And I really broke down that there are two worlds, as we used to say in my overcoming trauma program, break free formula. We're either we're either in survival at any moment. We'd say it was a black and white world. You're either in survival and you're being a human animal, or your best self, your human spirit. And there's, from a physiological standpoint, there's the parts of the brain that we were correlating to being the human animal. And it's the brainstem, pons, medulla oblongata, amygdala, all those primitive parts of the brain that want nothing more than the survival of the species, that there's that the organism is alive and it can procreate. Now, the paradox is these parts of the brain don't give a damn about aliveness, which comes from the frontal cortices and when these later parts of the brain that were laid on top of the brainstem. And how we would distinguish it in our program is you're either in your head, meaning like the whole survival brain world, or you're in your heart, your human spirit. You are what's possible and potential for the being of a human being. And we'd say if you're, rattling around in your head, like all that negative conversation that's there, that's just correlated to your survival. And it will kill off all aliveness in favor of the organism surviving. So what it'll look like is attacking everything and everyone, including your own self and self-expression, versus that human spirit is all about aliveness and joy and play and whatever your qualities are that you like. But how we started teaching mindset is which thoughts, which actions, which feelings, which practices are consistent with which, and where do you want to live? In human animal or human spirit? In survival or in your best self? And so then it's up to us, it's incumbent upon us to come up with practices to keep us in our best self, to keep us living consistent with human spirit. Now, part of that is like things like the proven practice list, or like you just said, disproving negative beliefs and just then instantly creating new ones, and not getting wrapped up in the pathology of, well, where did that belief begin? How old was I? And going down the path of this, getting wrapped up in the pathology of it. Who cares? You've got a negative belief now. Let's destroy it. Prove that that's not the empirical truth, but rather one possible interpretation of the occurrences or the circumstances. And now let's build a new belief just because you said so, and because human spirit can do that. Now, when you and I work together, we take it to another degree with mindset and say there's a particular kind of mindset necessary in order to be seen by the world and heard by the world. And it's an ever expansive kind of mindset. So if you are having a negative conversation with yourself, like, oh God, what am I doing? What am I saying? Well, that's not a place that can get you seen by the world. It's standing behind who you are and owning who you are, and owning the contribution that you want to be, and that you in fact already are, by simply wanting to make a positive impact on other people. And that's good enough. So stand there. I think mindset is a verb, kind of like love. It's not a noun. It's a verb. You're either doing it or you're not. And then you'll have the experience, the feelings, ultimately the outcomes that are consistent with whatever it is that you are doing.
It's incredible what you've done in your life and how you have been I would call you a shining star that is holding that level of you can do it and you're enough, so that others can believe that and show up. And you have done that for me, so I can speak for myself. And I'm 100% certain that you have done that for so many others. And you've done that in a way of not only in our own private individual lives, but in a I'm going to be on the media type of way, which takes a whole another level of courage. And, if you weren't someone who walked your talk and did what you do and are resilient and step through adversity and then none of us would be able to follow in your footsteps. And the things that I have achieved because of your support, because of your example, because you are the real deal. I mean, I never would have thought that there could have been these level of media placements and the things that are happening in my life. And I was afraid of the media, and I think a lot of people are. And, after my dad was killed, my family got raked through the coals from the media, from 2020, from ABC. We got, pretty decimated with that story that went out. And my dad had been in the media a lot. He was, he was a public figure in a lot of ways. And so I was scared shitless of going into the media again, especially after doing the interviews I did previously and felt like it was I just hit the floor. And yet, your example has been something that has told me, you know what? You can do this. She can do this. You can do this. And, back to the mindset of, I can't do this. No one wants to hear what I have to say. Versus, I have a message that can help and support people. And if I don't do that, I am doing a disservice. I am doing a disservice to the world by not sharing that. And therefore, let me just not care. Let's just not, what are people going to think? How am I going to look? How is it going to show up? And when I got from working with you, when I got, you know what? None of that really matters when you're really up to big things. That doesn't matter. It shifted my entire perspective, and it shifted everything from you have a saying of going from like the shadows, like being in the shadow, to coming into the light, and being able to, like, like the lights, like the camera lights, being able to say, hey, I'm here. And you have done that, and by your very example, you've taught all of us to do that. And the results that people get from working with you, I'm one of them, is beyond. Can you share with us, first of all, what you've experienced from people that you've worked with, and what are the results that people are getting? Because I'm just blown away by you.
I want to back up for just a second. I didn't, even though I was doing work helping people overcome trauma, and I was then speaking on the news and TV about it and doing, doing those things, I hadn't yet told my story. I was just an expert in resilience, and like that. But it finally, I thought, this, in my own moment of moving from standing in the shadows to being seen and standing in the spotlight, I thought, you know what? I am no longer a child, a teenager, same thing, but I'm no longer this child who's worried about the bad guys coming to find me again. They're probably old men, if they're even alive. I don't even know, but who cares? I'm not going to live my life based upon that. That ends now. And I had to go through my own journey of being willing to stand in the spotlight and not have it figured out. I mean, my biggest thing when I was going to do my first interview and decided to speak, I thought, one of the reasons I haven't spoken and shared my story all this time is because I was worried that people would say, how dare you not see justice served? How dare you leave these men on the street without going to the police? Well, I ran for my life and I didn't know what to do. They seemed to know people. And I was in a foreign country and I didn't know what to do. I was, again, still a child. I didn't know what to do. I did what I could do best. That's all I could do. And if the fire comes at me, or, I'm under fire for that, so be it. I'm an adult now and I can talk to that. It is what it is. And so I decided to share my story. But when I finally started doing that, one of the big first ways that I said anything, I did a docu film called Discover the Gift. And then I did TEDx Santa Monica right after that. And I shared my story, and I did it live in front of people for the first time ever. And people lined up afterward to come talk to me. And people started, it came out right away. And people started emailing me and finding me on social media and telling me stories I could never have imagined. There was a woman who was 77, said she'd lived in the closet her whole life. And it made her realize she could come out and finally tell her family she was a lesbian. And I thought, oh my God, 77 years of hiding. And she connected the dots between that being like my story somehow. And people lined up the very night of the TEDx Santa Monica and told me, a woman said, I was raped. She worked at a real estate office. I was raped by my partner in the office on the desk one night when I went to pick up keys for a showing. I've never told anybody. And people lined up to tell me their stories that were similar about horrors that they'd experienced. And every time I've ever spoken, the same thing happens. And I thought, it's my duty to share my story as loudly and as long as I can, because it liberates other people. And that's when I recognized, you know what, I've loved helping people overcome trauma, but the bigger difference to be made right now is empowering other difference makers, change agents, light workers, to get their difference making out to the planet. And the way to do that today in this era is major media. It just is. And you and I had joked about that. Somebody said to me early on, is like, oh, you're such a fool. They're using you. I'm like, who, CNN? Yeah. Thanks. No, I'm using them as the platform to get in front of millions and share a message of hope. Make no mistake, I'm using them. So, a lot of people go, oh, there's just so much junk in the media. Then get into the media and change that. Then get out there and get your message in front of the millions so that you are shifting the common conversation of what it is to be a human, so that you're shifting the narrative about whatever it is that gets you out of bed in the morning. There's truly no better way to do that today than major media. And that's exactly what our clients are doing. I mean, seriously, in the past week, Elizabeth, how many times have you been featured in major media?
114, I think.
14? I was going to say 100. I mean, that's revolutionary, particularly if you look at it from this perspective. You're a coach, which is phenomenal. It's really God's work you're doing. But I personally got on, I told you thousands of people reach out to us a month. And I was on the phone with somebody that goes, yeah, but I'm a coach. Well, but I'm trained. And so I'm brand new. I just need to let people know I'm in business. And I was like, I think you watched Field of Dreams one too many times. If you build it, they will come. That's not true. That ain't the way it goes. What do you hang out your shingle open and then people flood to you from the interwebs? No. So I did this search while we're talking on the phone. It was like, LinkedIn, how many coaches are there? And this thing came up on LinkedIn, 600,000 coaches, life and business coaches in the US alone. And that's not like fitness coaches and productivity coaches and finance coaches and marriage coaches and whatever other kind of coaches. And I thought, holy moly, you in one fell swoop have just eliminated the competition. Because how many life and business strategists are having articles published by them and getting major news appearances 114 times in breaking news cycles? Because that's what they were interviewing you about. What does one do with their work and their business and their productivity and all that in the face of COVID? Yeah, you think people are interested in that? 114 news sources across the country said yes. That's the
Yes.
thing. We've all got that kind of a message. Like, let's just say, like I said, everybody, it was a huge assertion, but we all as human beings want to help other people. And I'd say, and we all have some message, some way of making life better. And if you want to do that, get it out to the world. And the way to
Yes.
do that is major media. I mean, look at you. You've just eliminated the competition by getting out there that much and having people go, oh, wait, this woman, she's the leader in this field. She's the thought leader of what it is to have life coaching or business, life and business strategy. Okay, we need her.
Oh yeah, you should have seen the texts, all the texts coming in. I mean, it was like my friends, and one of my friends was like, "Oh, this is actually news you can use." And I was like, "Oh, I like that." Because she was like, "This is something that is positive, that is out in the world, that she's like, "Oh," and I'm like, "Oh, that's great." And then another friend was like, "I can't believe you were on Yahoo Finance. What?" Fox and CBS and everybody, and they're like, "How do you do that? What do you mean? Wait, hold on. What do you mean?" And then other people have said, "Oh, wow, looks like you're really skyrocketing and showing people, what you're doing in the world." And it's incredible because sometimes, we're here, we're doing the work. And then to have it be in the world and to get that feedback is something that it lights you up, because you're like, oh my gosh, people are starting to really get and understand what it is that my contribution is for helping others, and how that we can support people. It's incredible. It's incredible. And yes, the media is, you say also there's 24-hour news cycle. Hello, how much content do they need? They need content. I mean, all of the time I've been in the industry, it's like producers, if you call them up and say, hey, I have this awesome thing and it works for them, they're going to be like, thank God, because I don't have to do all the work to get the story, and people don't realize that, especially people that aren't in the industry.
You're so right. I think we tend to look at it like, oh, the media have the golden ticket. And oh, please help me, hand me some scraps, but we're looking at it incorrectly. I mean, if you've got expertise in something and you help people solve a problem with your expertise, then the media needs you. It just comes down to getting the right message to them and asking in the perfect way. You just need the right message and the right ask, and they're begging for you to give them something, because they've got this impossible task. It's not like in the old days of Walter Cronkite or something like that, where it's like they had the nightly news, 1 hour a night, and that's what they had to do, and 1 hour a night, and then they would have an army of people doing that. No, producers today, 24/7, they got to be churning out content. No human alive can come up with that much content. They want what you have. You just need to get it to them in the right way. They already want it. And if you could just shift it around that way so that you recognize, wait, I've got the goods, not them having the goods, that's a whole different ball game starts to emerge.
You would think there's this 1 hour and it's like, can I please, will you please? And from a producer's head, if you put yourself in the role of the producer, what do you want to do? You want to produce content. You want to be able to give incredible information to your audience, whatever that is, right? And whatever is going on in the world right now. And we all know there is so much going on in the world right now. And if someone comes to you and you're a producer, think about this, audience, you're a producer, you have to put all this content out, and someone comes to you and says, hey, I have this incredible story. I have this thing that I'm doing. I have these people that I'm helping. Look at the impact with what's happening now. For me, it's with the businesses that are dying from COVID, and with all of the things that are going on in the world. How can we pivot? How can we shift? And what are the things that we can do that can really move the needle in our businesses, in our productivity, in our systems, in our goal setting, in everything that we're up to? with tips and being able to do that, but also have a system so that each quarter you're doing the same thing and you're able to propel and move your business forward with a message that is on purpose and in alignment with what you're here to do in the world. Boom. Okay, there's that. And then there's all these businesses that are not going on in the world right now, that are not happening. How can we support those businesses? Okay, now media, what do they want to do? Talk about what's happening in the world and use content that's going to get that message out and support people in the world. Ultimately, I mean, I like to think that that's what it is, not only sensationalism, but let's really help people. And so you say, here's this story, and here you are, the producer, and you go, oh my gosh, thank you. Let's do it. We're going live in 5. And it's so fast like that.
Yeah, you've done that beautifully.
I've done that because you've showed me how to do that. You have been a stand for that. You and the team have been there every inch of the way, helping me to get out of my way, helping me to realize and to find that courage inside of myself and inside of my mindset, come from my heart, and not worry about what I look like while I do it, and be able to just hit record and show up. And be in action and be in action and be in action. And when you get knocked down, you have support. You know, how many times have I come to you, oh, this is going on, or you know, how many times have you gone to your team when you had an appearance and it was overwhelming and you needed someone there to say, you're doing great, you know, like that's what you do for others. And I know that others do that for you. And that's that level of reciprocity. And, you know, for our listeners, if you really have a message that you want to share with the world and you're lit up by it, then work with Cheryl. I mean, she is one of the most amazing people. Magnify Your Message is something that has helped me in my life beyond. I mean, I wouldn't have the appearances I have. I wouldn't have the exposure I have. I wouldn't have had the courage I have to step up. But, you know, where can they start, Cheryl, to work with you? Where can they begin, either on their own, or is there some sort of exercises?
So I've got CherylHunter.com/masterclass. I've got a masterclass that lays out a ton of value on how you can grab the attention of the media. And then on a similar note, I've got a free Facebook group. You can just search it on Facebook, Grab Media Attention, that shows you how to, I do Facebook Live videos, I do Q&A videos, we have clients step in, the team and I step in to that group. There's a free resource. I'm happy. I've got amazing team members that we do strategy sessions, and I can do that with you. And I'll give you that link as well, Elizabeth. But those are some of the ways that we can provide value for you. And if ultimately it's the right fit to work together, you get starting down the path of watching the masterclass will point you to what to do if you feel like becoming a client is the right thing too. So there's either the free resources of the masterclass on its own and the Grab Media Attention Facebook group, or there's the possibility of becoming a client if we find that there's a mutual fit there.
Right. And what I meant to say is they would be silly not to work with you, because it is such an incredible opportunity. And I know that there has to be a fit there, and that you are very discerning in terms of who it is that you take on, and what is it that's motivating them, so that they are in alignment with what it is that you are doing and creating in the world. And I have a lot of respect for that. I know that you talk to thousands of people, you know, per month, and you know, it is not an open door. It is something that is in alignment with what it is that you are doing, with the importance of the message. You know, this is not about getting famous. This is about making a difference in the world. This is about helping others. And I mean, I can't thank you enough for your courage to do what you do, to inspire me in my life to do what I'm doing. And, you know, I deeply appreciate you. I could just start crying right now, but I deeply appreciate what you do in the world. And you are such a stand for people. And, I even ask myself sometimes, like, what would Cheryl do right now? And it helps me, and the team that, when you're starting to feel like, oh gosh, I just don't know if I can do this. I just don't know. It's like, just do it. Just do it. You got it. And these are the things I'm telling my clients, and there's a trickle down, of like, you got this, you can do this, show up, this is a way to really, really, really support other people in the world. So, so just, thank you. Thank you, Cheryl, for everything that you have done and for the light in this world that you are. And I could just go on and on. I just love you so much and appreciate you.
It is my absolute honor, Elizabeth. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. And we will have the information and the links on the show notes and down in the description below. And let's see, is there anything else that we want to wrap with?
I want to leave each of you who are listening with the knowledge that you've got something worthy to say. And the media wants to hear it. And that right there is the biggest shift that's going to make it possible, is recognizing, one, your worth and the worthiness of your message and the way you want to help people, and knowing that the media want this. They really do. And they can bring it out to the world, to your target audience, to your people that you're trying to help and reach. Now, look, it's possible to do that on your own. I did it. It took me a decade. I'm not kidding. I had codified this whole journey, and I could help people with overcome trauma, and it was going great. I had beta tested with people. It was effective. I became trained as a coach, and I had led programs literally for hundreds of thousands of people as part of my training. I just couldn't find anyone I know there were a lot of people that had gone through trauma. I just didn't know how to find any of them. And I decided to do it myself, and I wasted a lot of time and a lot of money. You don't have to do that, but you can. But the most important shift up front is to recognize you've got something to offer. And people want it. And if you can start there, that'll save you a lot of time itself. But we're happy to talk to you. CherylHunter.com/talk is the link Elizabeth will give you. But we're happy to get on the phone and talk with you to see if we can help. And if so, we'll absolutely show you how. If not, we'll look to see, well, what is going to move the needle for you in helping you reach the people that you want to help most. We're expert at this. Like Elizabeth said, thousands of people reach out to us a month. We are experts in knowing what it's going to take to reach the people you want to reach most. Because you've got something in your heart to offer people. Give it away.
Give it away. Yes. Yes. Oh, thank you, Cheryl.
Oh, the
thank you
peppers.
for
give it away.
Give it away. Give it away. Give it away now.
Hat tip, Anthony Kiedis.
Oh gosh. Well, thank you so much for being here, for spending your time with us. And gosh, thank you so much. That was an incredible interview. And this is Elizabeth Upton signing off and reminding you all to mind your own business.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode. I hope that you got a lot out of what we talked about today. If you are watching from YouTube, then please give the video a big thumbs up if you did. Make sure to hit subscribe down below if you haven't already, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss an episode. If you are listening from Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to podcasts, because we know that there's a lot, please take a minute to subscribe if you haven't, and give us a review. It helps others to find the show, and it puts wind in our sails, literally. So please, please do that. We are at MYOB Podcast on Instagram, and I am at Elizabeth Upton Coaching on Instagram. If you are interested in following along there, we offer a lot of bonus material. And there is a link to the show notes down below in the description box, along with the resources we discussed in today's episode. Most of all, thank you for honoring yourself. Thank you for investing your time with us today. No one is going to be more of a champion for your growth than you are. So always remember that. Keep showing up. And this is Elizabeth Upton signing off and reminding you to always mind your own business.